So it's not like we are outside, we are inside the whole scheme of things. The human mind, which tries to understand the mind of the Creator, is itself a product of, contained within, and an expression of that mind. So the more you can understand your own mind, you start to eavesdrop on the nature of that mind. There's a prayer that Saint Augustine had. He said, all my life I've been knocking at the door. And Rumi said that also in slightly different words. He said, all my life I've been knocking at the door, and when it finally opened, I realized I was knocking from inside. I was on the inside of it. And Rumi has also said, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. He said, we come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. Look at these worlds, spinning out of nothingness. This is within your power. So what's this field? If you go to a good scientist these days, they'll say, well, there's a lot of work being written about the unified field. Perhaps you've heard that expression, unified field. If you go to a scientist, a quantum field physicist today, and you ask them, what's the unified field? They'll tell you, it's made up of 4 forces in nature. There are only 4 forces in nature. The first one is electromagnetism, which is what gives rise to heat, electricity, light, etc. The second one is gravity, which makes the world go around and holds the planets and stars in their place. And the third one is called the strong force, which is the force that holds the nucleus of an atom together. That when you disrupt that, you get a nuclear explosion, so it's the strong force. And then there's a fourth force called the weak interaction, which is basically the force that holds the arrangement of the subatomic particles, which aren't things, which are actually mathematical ghosts, fluctuations of energy and information. Subatomic particles are more like ideas than actual things. And that's all there is. Gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak forces, period, according to everything that we know in the world of science. And what the unified field theorists are now saying to us is that all these forces come from one fundamental force. They're all the same force. So electromagnetism, which is what? What's electromagnetism? It's light. Ordinary light, which has a visible part and an invisible part. The invisible part is X-rays and cosmic rays and microwaves and radio waves and television waves and all the stuff that we don't see, but we know how it works because we use it to send fax messages to each other and speak to each other on cellular phones and surf the information highway on the internet. So that's the invisible part of light. And then there's the visible part of light. And ultimately, that's all there is. There's only light. Electromagnetic forces give rise to space-time events, give rise to gravity, give rise to subatomic forces. So when God said, let there be light, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was speaking literally. That's what came out of the cosmic mind, light. And you and I are beings of light. And when we go to that place in our awareness where we go beyond the appearance of Maya, of physical matter, then we do experience ourselves as beings of light, because that's what we are. And this is not just light with elementary particles and forces. This is the light of intelligence, because there's a difference between information and intelligence. Information is, everybody knows what information is right now. It's data. But when information starts to feed back on its own self and evolve to higher levels of its own expression so that it becomes intelligent and creative, then it's no longer information. It's no longer dead information, it's intelligence, it's consciousness. So light is full of consciousness. And the unified field is a conscious energy field. It's literally the expression of the mind of God. And in that unified field, in that conscious energy field, one of the things that's built into it is intent. So if you read the book of Genesis, all you see is God said, let there be this, there was this. God said, let there be that, there was that. Because intent was introduced into that conscious energy field, which connects everything with everything else. And more scientists are now recognizing that intent is a force in nature. It's not something that happens to us here, right in our own minds. Intent is a force in nature. There was a scientist around the time of Darwin, his name was Lamarck, and he coined a term called teleology, and ever since then, now scientists are aware that the best way to explain biological mechanisms is to understand the intent behind the spirit that was in that biological organism. So Lamarck said a camel has a hump because the intent was to navigate the desert for 7 days without water. And birds have wings because the intent was, I will fly. And that this is happening all the time. A giraffe has a long neck because the intent was, I'm going to reach up to that tree. And there are millions of examples of intent in nature, homing pigeons, and you and I have talked about monarch butterflies, and all the miracle of nature can be explained because there is intent built into that conscious energy field. One of my good friends, Michael Flynn, who lives in this area and is an attorney and really a great brother, spiritual brother. Whenever I go to his house, I open the door, he has a little parakeet. And as soon as I open the door, this parrot starts singing Beach Boy songs. And I was just beginning to wonder, how does a parakeet sing Beach Boy songs? You know, he has a complete California accent and everything. And the size of a brain of a parrot is about 1/3 of the size of my fingernail. It has rudimentary vocal cords. You couldn't call them vocal cords. It has a beak for a mouth. And it sings Beach Boy songs. Homing pigeons do the same thing. They trace the territory. They can come from anywhere in the world to where they were bred. Or you look at the migration of monarch butterflies. In the last 2 years, Rupert Sheldrake, who's a great English biologist, has written about various kinds of experiments that clearly, undoubtedly demonstrate unequivocally that intent is part of the conscious energy field. So if you introduce intent, you immediately change the field. But there's a trick, and the trick is the intent can't come from the level of the ego. The intent has to come from beyond the ego. You know, I remember many years ago in India, I was this long time ago as a medical student, we had one day a young yogi come to our physiology lab to show the power of intent. And yogis have these extraordinary abilities, the siddhis that you're talking about, some of the yogis. And by the way, yogi, yoga, yog all come from the same root, which means the unification of body, mind, soul, and spirit, and environment. So this young fellow, he was about 28 to 29, a very accomplished yogi from the Himalayas. He came, stood in front of our physiology class, and he took a knife and he plunged the knife right through his biceps like that. And you know, if you did that to my biceps, it would probably bleed. It just went right through his biceps, and he stood there. Because to a yogi, a real yogi, this is not a body of flesh and bones. It's a body of consciousness. It's a body of light, and light doesn't bleed. And he put this knife right through his biceps, and everybody was aghast and completely shocked at what he had done. And then there was somebody in the front row, a physician of course, a professor of medicine, who introduced the doubt that you talk about. When it says banish the doubt, and he thought this was some kind of a trick. And he mocked the yogi. He said, so what other tricks do you have up your sleeve? And immediately the yogi's attention shifted from his self to his self-image. Because when you mock somebody, who do you mock? Their ego. The spirit is beyond that.